Welcome to This Indulgent Life, the podcast, with me, Mary Cook, and this is episode number 10. Today on This Indulgent Life, we are talking with Sheila from Behind Every Day about creating a yearly tradition of travel with your family and what to do if you and your spouse aren't on the same page about traveling. Welcome to another episode of This Indulgent Life, where together wanderlusting families navigate respectful parenting, education, and fulfilling our dreams of having an extraordinary life through travel. We believe that life shouldn't just be an obligation, and that the American dream isn't the same for everyone. We believe that life should be an indulgence, so cherished and enjoyed. And the best way to do that is through enjoying experiences together, following our hearts. May you be inspired to do the same. So welcome back for another episode. Before we get started in introducing our guest today, I just want to remind you that you can find all of the show notes and the contest giveaway information at thisindulgentlife.com/10. That's the numeral 10. Again, that is thisindulgentlife.com/10. There you'll find everything that we talk about today, plus all of the giveaway information. Really what I need is for you to subscribe to this podcast and to leave an honest rating and review in iTunes. By doing that, you are helping iTunes realize that this is a show worth sharing. And we want to share this because we want to inspire so many people that traveling is possible with their family. So please leave an honest rating and review. It also helps me know where I need to improve. And then don't forget, we have that Facebook community that we just started. I'm really looking forward to getting to know you in there. We're going to have a lot of great opportunities to share our bucket lists, where we're going next, and then to really help each other out. I want to make this community a place where people can come, and if they want to learn about RVing, there are people that are there that can answer those questions. If they want to learn how to travel the world with just a backpack, there will be people there. So I'm really hoping that this becomes a community where we can all help each other, inspire each other, and push each other forward. So let me introduce to you now Sheila from Behind Every Day. Sheila is a somewhat scattered and always curious wife and mom of 3 who loves to laugh and is always up for a good road trip. She spends 11 months of her year wrangling her to-do list, her class of 5-year-olds, several dog walking clients, and writing on her blog behindeveryday.com. The 12th month is spent happily roaming the highways and back roads of the U.S., and she travels from place to place visiting her extended family and couch surfing with friends. You may have seen her out there. She's the one in the minivan, loaded to the gills with luggage, 3 kids, a dog, and dozens of bags of the special potato chips she brings home from Grandma's house every day. So join with me in welcoming Sheila from Behind Every Day. So welcome, Sheila, from Behind Every Day. I'm so excited that you're joining with me, my tonight, your morning. I love this idea. You know, we talk to a lot of families that are traveling full-time or they're traveling multiple times a year, and a lot of people feel like they have to do that. But I love what you're going to talk to us about today and how you've managed to instill this love of travel in your family by having one intentional big trip a year. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm pretty excited. I love to talk about my trips.
Before we get started, you know, I read that intro and you talked about the potato chips. I gotta know what these potato chips are and the story behind these things.
These things, I don't know what it is about these chips, but it's a small company in West Central Illinois in the farmlands where my dad's family lives. And so always when we would go to Grandma's in the summer, we would have this potato chips, and they were good. And so they're not sold anywhere else but that area. So you only get them certain times a year. So I got to where I would just buy, I mean, they look at us like we're crazy at the grocery store because we load up our whole cart with just potato chips and then we bring them back with us. Sometimes if I'm nice, I'll share a couple of bags with my dad and my brother as we pass through. But yeah, we got to get our fix.
So you can find them in a grocery. You don't have to like go to this particular store. You can find them in the stores there. So what is the name of this potato chip? Do you remember?
They're called Kitchen Cooked, and they're made in Bushnell, Illinois.
Okay, so people go in and check that. And if you live in Bushnell, Illinois, I kind of want to see a picture of these chips because if they're so good, you got to buy bags of them.
Right. Well, and that's the funny thing is because to the people who live there, they're just, potato chips. But to us, they've become this special thing because we can only get them there.
I kind of get it because up in actually it's a lot of the northern East Coast now. There's this gas station called Sheetz. And it's amazing for people who don't get to use it every day. So, when we're on the road trip to my mom's, we have to stop at all the Sheetz. It's just what you got to do.
Same idea.
So I feel you. I get it. So tell us a little bit more about who you are, who your family is, and how you got into traveling.
Okay, well, my husband and I are both veterans, and we have 3 kids. And we live now in the Washington, D.C. area, and we came here as military when we first came here, and we've now left the military and just work in the area. But none of our family is anywhere near us. They all live like Illinois and west of there, basically. And the kids were little, and we wanted them to see Grandma and Grandpa, and we were talking about it one night, and we said, if we fly to Grandma's in this place or that place, it costs X amount of dollars and you stay for a week, but that's all you can really do. So, but if we drive, we could see everybody every time. And it was such a crazy idea because my kids were really little then. My youngest was only 18 months old. Wow. And the idea of driving across the country and back was a little crazy. And we like to joke that my husband was drinking the margaritas that night, not me, but I agreed to drive my kids across the country to Grandma's house. And
so initially his idea? It was initially his idea?
Kind of a joint idea. We were just, we went out to dinner. We were just chatting, what are we going to do this summer and this and that. And so we said, okay, this year will be a test. If it works this year, then maybe we'll do it again. And so we have now done it 13 more times.
Wow. And how many kids and how old were they when you started?
So when I started, I had 18 months was the youngest. My youngest daughter. My next daughter was a year and a half, was 3.5, and my son was 5.5 at the time. So there was a lot of, videos and just stopping at playgrounds and just anything to just get there. Yeah. And then now my son is in college. He's a freshman in college. I have a junior in high school and a freshman in high school. So it's a lot different now.
At the end.
Our trip has definitely evolved over the years and how it works.
Well, just first of all, thank you for your service. I'm a Navy brat, so I really do appreciate those who have served. And I know that probably might have instigated a little bit of your wanderlust. I'm not sure how much you moved around in it.
Yep, I grew up as an Air Force brat.
Okay, so you definitely have a history of moving around and whatnot. Right. Awesome. So, so it got started wanting to visit family. What made you guys decide to not just drive straight through? What made you really decide to start making this bigger trip than just going to see family?
Right. Well, it's about 1,000 miles to my grandma's house and another 1,000 miles to my dad's house. Wow. So I get bored if I'm just driving the same route every time. I mean, that's just boring. You drive down the road and you see these signs for such and such museum or such and such this and that. And I'm always like, ooh, I want to see that. I wonder. So it was just a matter of, I just want to see something. If I'm going to be driving this distance, I want to see stuff along the way. And also when the kids are little, it's a good way to break things up to, okay, we're going to stop here, get out of the car, see some stuff. But yeah, even now as I drive, I'm like, I see a sign. I'm like, ooh, that sounds good. Write that down. So that next time we can stop and see that.
So do you take a different route every time, or do you?
Yeah. So that's what we do. We have our main points that we're visiting, and then we try to vary our route to get from place to place so that, yeah, we are seeing different things.
It helps that you're kind of like in the middle of the East Coast. So you have
we
options.
can kind of, right. We can do a loop. Like we can drive the north way. We can drive the south way. We can drive, we go down around West Virginia, or we go over West Virginia. We, just got to mix it up, see what, and, you'll never see everything, but, we're driving by. I'm like, okay, next time we'll see that.
I like that you make a list so you don't forget it for next time.
Right, yeah. It'll take me many years to see all my next times.
That's okay. You got them. So you started when the kids were literally babies, and now they are in college and in high school. How has your trip evolved over time?
Well, we can see, it kind of changes what we see in some respects because they're older, or they might have input, or like my son will be like, oh, I saw this cool donut shop on the Man versus Food or whatever. So we'll find, okay, where is it? Oh, that's not too far out of the way. Let's just go there. We'll go there along our way. We don't get everybody on the whole trip anymore. So, so that's something that we've changed. It used to be the kids and I were always there. My husband would come and go depending on his schedule. But the last few years, we kind of pick up people and drop off people as we go along. And we actually have done that all along. Sometimes my aunt will come for a leg. Sometimes my father-in-law will join us for a leg of the journey. We pick them up somewhere. We drop them off at an airport. They go home. So yeah, you just kind of build it around your schedule, and you just figure out, okay, well, there's an airport here, so we'll pick you up.
That's a really great idea, so they can kind of have that little part of the adventure without having to book the whole summer vacation.
Right.
That's awesome. So, but your kids are all still kind of doing this with you, even your college age kid?
This year will be the first year that he doesn't go with us. He's staying, he goes to school at the University of Utah, and he's staying in state this summer to get residency. So we're going, he has become a stop on the trip. So this year we will go to Salt Lake City to visit him on our trip.
There you go. Added a little extra dimension to it. And do you have any other family there, or is it a new place for you?
Well, we have driven through. Last summer we drove through as part of his orientation process, but it's a new destination as far as having someone to visit there. So
awesome.
Yeah.
That's exciting. That means a whole bunch of new memories to create there.
Exactly.
So, what if somebody wanted to get started doing this and they had, let's start with the beginning. They had young children, like you started with. What are some things that they should keep in mind, and what are some things that I guess they could really... what's the word I'm looking for? Look forward to by having children so young. Like, why would they start young, I guess?
Right. Well, if you start young and it goes well, they get used to it and they're ready. They will want, you can do it again and again and again. If it doesn't work out, not every personality is good for riding for hours in the car. So, we're kind of blessed in that my kids are pretty chill and they're fine with it for the most part. My youngest doesn't love the car, but she's figured out how to manage, her time and, how much longer and stuff like that. But I tend to be a very relaxed, whatever kind of person. So I have a few places that I want to see, but I find that, especially at the beginning, if you're not because it was just a trip to visit grandma and these other things were just bonus, it was really easy to be relaxed about it and be like, well, we see something, it's fine. If it takes us longer, it's fine. No one, the main thing was you had to be at grandma's for dinner on whatever day you said you were coming. But other than that, you just kind of go with the flow, and you try to be relaxed about it and not have super high hopes and expectations of we're going to see this and this and it's going to be great, and because it's not always great, and sometimes you have to stop, especially when they were little. Oh my gosh, we were in Texas and we were watching the Backyardigans on loop on the little DVD player in the back, and we would let the kids take turns picking what was next. But my youngest wanted to watch the Backyardigans, but it was my son's turn. And we were in like West Texas nowhere. And he was like, but it's my turn. And I was like, honey, if you ever want to get out of Texas, we're going to have to watch the Backyardigans because she's just going to cry and cry and cry and we're never going to make it. So, you kind of got to choose your battles and be prepared to be like, okay, we're going to stop again because we need to walk it off or, whatever. So
yeah, I remember we did South Florida. We flew into Miami. We went to Fort Myers, Florida. We went to South Carolina. We went to Pennsylvania. We went to Ohio, back to Pennsylvania before flying out again with a 4-month-old. And, I used to take road trips up and down the East Coast all the time. That is a completely different experience with a young child. Right?
Exactly.
Your 6-hour trip becomes more like 9 to 12 hours, like if you're lucky. And that was before he moved, so I can only imagine what it would be like now that he moves.
Right?
So what are some tips, I guess, for how to make a long car ride more bearable with young children?
Okay, well, we had our DVD player so they could watch movies. I mean, as they got older, we changed the rules, like no movies for the first hour sort of thing. But when we first started, it was like, whatever it takes to get us another hour down the road is fine with me. And we keep a snack box. We actually still bring the famous original snack box with us. Oh, that's not true. We did upgrade it to a larger size when the kids got older.
Well, now that you have boys, yes.
Right? We were running out of snacks, so we need a bigger box. But we have a snacks box because sometimes you end up in a stretch where there's not really anything and you're planning to stop in another hour or so, but people are hungry. So you just reach in and pull out some crackers or have something, like that. My youngest daughter, again, the one who doesn't like to ride in the car as much, the year that my aunt was with us, she would do a thing with her hands. My daughter would be like, how much longer? And she'd be like, okay, it's this far. Okay, and then she would make it a little smaller. It's this far. Okay, now we have, so she was giving her a visual representation of it decreasing. And I've seen actually where you can make it with like beads on a string that go across the top, just kind of for them to see.
Yeah.
So I found out as they got older, they were able to watch the GPS screen and the clock in the car so they could see how much longer they had to go, which was really good unless there was a time zone change that unexpectedly, because the GPS was in the correct destination time, but our car clock was in, the current time. And so it could add another hour to your trip. All of a sudden, they're like, wait, I thought we only had 2 hours left and now we have 3 hours.
They were like, we were being so patient and you tricked us. How dare you?
Like, no, that's not fair.
Did you?
And the other thing is when.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Yeah.
I was going to say when they were little, if they were asleep, you would just drive. It doesn't matter how bad you need to go to the bathroom. You just drive because you don't want to stop when everyone's asleep.
I can imagine that yielded some little potty dances in your seat a few times.
Right, exactly. I'm like, it's okay though. We're going to keep going. I can hold it. We're going to make it.
Oh, to be mom again.
Right?
So, did you also have things like books and games and things like that? Or were they pretty easygoing, just kind of staring at the window and watching their movies?
Yeah, my son especially liked to listen to audiobooks.
Oh.
So when we first started, it was with a CD player and a giant binder of audiobooks on CD that we would get. And he would do that. I mean, as we got older, we were able to do like, the MP3 format, and we would put it on an MP3 player for him so you could get way more books in a much smaller space.
Yes.
But so yes, they would get it. They would have an MP3 player, would have music and books on it. they just had the one DVD player, so obviously they either had to share or agree or take turns. They don't watch movies as much anymore because, now they're older and they have their phones and yeah, sometimes they look out the window. Sometimes they read a book. They would pack a bag. They each had a bag, like a little backpack that they would put in what they wanted to have. And of course, over the years, they figured out what they liked to have with them. Whereas in the beginning, it was me just, okay, let's see. We got coloring books and we got this and we got that. And just trying to think of whatever they would like.
Yeah, that seems to be something a lot of parents are always stressed about. Like, how can I entertain my child for this amount of hours? Whether it's a flight or a road trip, they're always concerned with what they can do to entertain their kids during that time.
Right. Exactly. Although to me, a road trip is more flexible just because you can pull over if you have to.
True.
I mean, it might take you twice as long to get there, but you can stop if you need to stop. You can change your route. But once you're on the plane, you're stuck. Those are rough.
It's very true. So you said you instituted some rules over time. Can you explain maybe what those rules were and your thought process behind them and how they've changed as the kids got older?
Okay. So it started as, I get it. Driving for hours can be boring, but I didn't want them to only be focused inside the car. I wanted them to also look around and see what we were doing. So initially, of course, they could do whatever. We just needed to get there. But as they got older, we started putting in rules like there's no videos for the first hour of the trip, or there's no videos for the first hour after lunch, just as a way to like delay the beginning of the video and kind of force them to either find something else to do besides watch videos all day, because that's really not good for you, no matter how far you're trying to drive, or to look out the window and see what else was out there, or to talk to. They would play with each other, like the girls, especially with their little stuffed animals, and they would play in the back seat, with each other. So, so we would do that. And then if we came to a point where we were in a particularly scenic location, or there's something I specifically wanted them to see, I would say, okay, everybody, headphones off, turn it off, look out the window. And they're like, okay. So even now still, if we're going somewhere, because they're involved in their devices or whatever they're doing and listening to music or whatever, I'm like, okay, guys, look out the window. And they're like, okay.
But you better see this. We're spending so much time trying to see this. You better see it.
Right? Exactly. It's funny because we used to travel a little bit with my parents. I remember my mom would say, look out the window. Isn't it beautiful? Isn't it beautiful? And I try to not. I remember I used to hate that. Like, yes, I'm looking out the window. Why do I have to tell you it's beautiful?
Now
so
you know.
I try to just exactly. So I try to just say, look out the window, and then just leave it at that, and let them decide for themselves if they like it. I just need you to look out. We don't have to talk about it. I just need you to look outside and see it.
Just be an observer.
Right. Exactly.
That's funny. So it's if you could go back 13 years, what would you do differently? If you could go back to the beginning.
I had an answer for that, and I can't remember. Yeah, I don't know. I know what I would change. I would travel off season, which, because of the way we do it, isn't really, it's not something that would work. But I would travel off season because in the summer, things are busy, things are hot. I'd rather travel, in the off season when it's not so busy or not so hot, or, better weather for wherever you're going to see optimally, what it is that you're going to see. So because, we were just doing it in the summer, the rest of the year, we're just a regular family. They're in school, we're working, stuff like that. So, you are kind of restricted to the summer. But in a perfect world, I would be able to travel in the fall or the spring, probably.
Those are the best times. No, I'm coughing. So it's been 13 years now. What have been your favorite memories over the years?
We love the things that usually it's unplanned or it doesn't go as planned. So those are the fun stories that we get to pull out. We're like, oh yeah, remember when we were driving on that road to the ghost town and we thought we were going to fall off a cliff and it was just like being in a Scooby-Doo movie. And And so we were in Montana. We were going to, to the place, and my husband's like, all right, we follow this road. So we're going, and there's like construction signs, and the road's closed, and it's one lane, and it's this really sketchy road up the side of a mountain. And we're like, oh my gosh. But it added a lot of great atmosphere on our way to the ghost town. And we get there, and there's like a bunch of cars, and we're like, where did they come from? We didn't pass anybody on the way here. And it turns out there's another much better road that comes from the other direction. But we love it because, right, exactly. But it actually was kind of good because then we have this fun memory of how, because we're big Scooby-Doo fans, and we're like, yeah, it's just like when Scooby-Doo and they would be in the Mystery Machine. And, so it really added a lot of fun, memory to the memory. And there was another one, we were camping in Wyoming, and a huge thunderstorm blew through. And we're in the tent on our phones, like trying to get the weather radar going. Okay, is it almost over? Is there a tornado? Like what do we need to do? Should we just get in the van and let the tent blow away, or what should we do? And so I made the mistake of jokingly, as I do, I was like, oh, we're all gonna die. Well, my youngest daughter took me literally, so then she's crying. Oh, Mom said we're gonna die. And my other daughter is like sound asleep. We're like, how can you sleep through all of this insanity? And then the time we went camping in a foot of snow at Bryce Canyon, we were on a road trip, and we had planned to camp. Like, we camped at Death Valley, and then we were going to camp at Bryce. Well, it snowed before we got there, and it snowed a lot. And so then we're like, well, we could camp here like we planned to, or we could go to the lodge down the road. And so we all talked it over, and we're like, okay. And, well, if we do it, then, we'll be able to check off our bucket lists. We camped in the snow. And my caveat was, I'll cook dinner, but I'm not going to wash the dishes. We'll just put them in a bucket, and I'll wash them when we get to our next place. And we ended up going to the restaurant at the lodge and having dinner, and then going back to the campground to sleep. So it was a very long, cold night, but we have an excellent picture in the snow, and we have a story to tell about how we camped in the snow.
So you guys camp in tents a lot on your trips, and you don't do a lot of hotels?
We usually do hotels. There's been a couple. Like, this one was a short, it wasn't actually part of our summer. It was a 1-week Thanksgiving trip to my in-laws' house. So we decided to make it into a trip. Make a trip out of a trip. So we, did a few things along the way. And then one year we did the Pacific Northwest. And so that trip was it was like specifically, it's a camping trip. We're going to see the parks. We're going to camp. And so that one was just about camping. And so we actually brought like all of the gear to cook and camp. And we camped pretty much the whole way until we got, I think, to my dad's house, and then a couple hotels on the way back. But that one was just a camping trip. So, and we do bring our tent with us if we think, okay, here's one place along the way where we could camp out for a night. And so that's not camping in the sense of we cook and do all that stuff. That's more just we sleep in a tent instead of a hotel room. Like, we'll pick up sandwiches at Subway, and we'll bring it with us to the park, and we'll sleep there in our tent. And then the next morning, we hit the road, and when we get to our first town again, we find some food to eat.
There you go.
So
that's not a bad idea. It cuts down on your costs, so you don't have to worry about it as much, and you get that's fun stories out of it.
Right, exactly.
Isn't it amazing though how sometimes like your worst, and maybe not worst, but some of the most difficult moments become the stories that get retold. Like, it's not the best moments that typically get retold. Right. It's the ones that you overcame something that get retold, or you totally screwed up, but you survived anyway.
That's right. Exactly. We all have to tell.
That's right. That's awesome. So this was your 13th year. This is the big 13, so to speak. It was the last one with your oldest before he went off to college. Did you do anything special for it being your big 13?
We went all the way across, like coast to coast, basically, because we live here in Virginia and Washington, D.C. area. So we're not exactly on the coast, but we're basically on the coast. Yeah, enough. And we drove close enough, right? We drove all the way to California and back. So we did an actual coast to coast. We've only done that twice in a round trip, and we've done it twice when we moved. We actually moved from here to California and then moved back again to here along in between. So those were coast to coast, but only one way. So we've done coast to coast round trip twice. So that was the main thing, was that we got to go back and visit all of our friends in California. And it was a longer trip because, you had to go all the way across. It seems like a good idea until you're about halfway back, and then you're like, oh my gosh, we're never going to make it.
Yeah, I hear those planes and whatnot get quite long and boring after a while.
Right? It's just so many days in a row. You're just like, oh. And I tend to get faster on the way back. When I'm within like a day or two of home, I'm like, all right, we're just, then I kind of get in the I'm just going to get there kind of mode. But before that, I'm like, whatever. Oh, that looks interesting. Let's stop. Sure, no problem. But those last few days, I'm like, next time, let's go. We don't need to stop. We're fine. Keep going.
How about your kids? How do you feel these trips have helped, you guys as a family, or, their relationships with the world around them?
I think that it's really helped them. It was interesting. The place that we lived in California was a smaller town, a little more rural area. And a lot of people there hadn't traveled much, even outside of the state, much less, across the country. And so my kids could tell, like, just different perspectives on things. And, like, oh, yeah, we're going to do whatever. And these other kids are like, what? That's so far. Why? Just things like that. So that was kind of interesting. And the other thing is, a lot of times we would go somewhere, I'd be like, okay, kids, pay attention, because you're going to learn about this in school one day. And then you can say, I've been there, I've seen it. And so they've told me before, they're like, oh yeah, we learned about such and such. And I remember that I went to see that when we were, there before.
So it kind of helped give them a relationship with the information, like whatever the topic was, and they were able to internalize that a little bit more, so that they probably learned it better. Right? Like they had a personal connection. That's awesome.
And then also for like going, now that they're getting older and moving out and moving on, they're all like, nope, I don't want to go to school in Virginia. My son's in Utah. My daughter is looking at schools, and she's like, nope, don't want to go to Virginia. They're ready to go out. They're not afraid to go beyond where we are and what they know. They know that there is so much out there that's also good, that they can just kind of figure out what works for them.
And they've had so many road trips that they've actually gotten to see a lot of these places before making these decisions.
Right, exactly. They have an idea. What does it look like in Texas? What does it look like in Nebraska? Where different places. What does it look like? I've been there. I know what it's like there. Not completely, but you have an idea.
It's better than just like through pictures on the website, right?
Right, exactly. And we visit colleges. The last couple of years, we've been visiting colleges and we'll drive by, a drive-by. We have drive-by college visits, and we have regular college visits. So the drive-by is, okay, we're driving past a college, look out the window.
I actually remember the big trip my mom and my little brother and my brother was, gosh, how was I? He must have been about 7, I guess. And I was 17, and we drove from South Florida all the way up into Philadelphia, stopping along the way and looking at different colleges, like that big college run, and I still remember many of those events of that trip. So it's definitely a special time. A lot of parents might think of that as either scary because you're letting your baby go, right? Like that's a big one, but also like kind of annoying to have to go see so many different colleges and listen to the same spiel from each college. But if you take it as a road trip, it can actually become a fun memory. One of the last ones you guys have together. That's awesome. Sorry. All right, where am I at next? Oh yeah. So on your trips, you said you kind of like just will see something and stop. So you're driving along the highway and you find these sites that most people may not think to go to. Like, for example, I saw on your Instagram the world's largest pistachio on your last summer. How do you find these places? Or how do you decide which ones to go to?
Right. Yeah. So to decide which ones to go to, it's mainly about what's close to where we're driving through anyway. I first started finding them on roadsideamerica.com. So it's a website and it's just about these random little things that you can find along the way that aren't the main tourist tracks, but they are, for example, the world's largest pistachio. So we also found the world's largest. It's in Kansas if you ever want to visit.
Which was that? The
The
what?
world's largest ball of twine.
Ah, okay. You cut in.
That one's
out
in
there for a second.
Kansas. Sorry, yeah,
Okay.
that one's in Kansas. So if you're ever rolling through there and you want to stop, yeah.
Hey,
So
if you're a knitter,
roadside,
that might be a good one for you.
right? I don't know. It was actually really kind of a cool place. The town has embraced it, and they had art, like famous pictures, but with a ball of twine somehow inserted into the picture. And they had a little yellow path that like wound through the town, and you could follow it, down the main street and stop at the different stores. We were unfortunately there like after business hours, so we couldn't go inside anywhere. But if you went, during the day, and you could go inside all of the different shops and just kind of enjoy the town. So we actually kind of enjoyed that stop, surprisingly. It was more than just a ball of twine, as it turns
Yeah.
out. So, because that's the thing, is sometimes it is just the thing, and other times it's a little bit more, and you don't necessarily know until you get there what it's going to be. And then this year I started using roadtrippers.com, which is another website it's a good way to search for things that are kind of along the way. And I like that one because you can actually plan, you can put your stops in and it will show the route, and it tells you how long it takes to get from one to the next. Versus Roadside America, you're just kind of finding it and then figuring out on your own how it fits into your route, which is okay too, but
It's a little easier to use the other one sometimes.
right, yeah, it was working out pretty good. So yeah.
That'd be great. And what would you say is your favorite out of the way thing you've done?
The favorite out of the way. I don't know. We see so many good ones. It's hard to pick a favorite. Like I said, the ball twine turned out to be kind of a fun, even though it was closed. We've been to a couple national park type places because my original goal was to see all 50 states, which I'm close. I have 48 out of 50. And then I was like, oh, well, I'm gonna hit this goal pretty soon. So what am I gonna do next? So I decided I want to see every national park site, like not just the parks, but the monuments and all 400 some odd sites. So I'm not sure I'm actually going to make that one. However, I have been to a few that I wouldn't have necessarily it wouldn't have been on my radar if I hadn't been trying to do this. And one of our favorite ones was Great Basin National Park, which is in Nevada. It's very remote. We drove all day through nothing to get there. But it's so quiet. We got out of the car and I said, do you hear that? And they're like, what? I'm like, that's silence, like actual silence. Like you never hear that anywhere. And so that actually was it was good. We all really enjoyed that one just because it was something special, and not a lot of people were there, obviously. And I learned after the fact that there's a cave there, and the cave is very popular, but we didn't do the cave because we're very we're just in and out. We stop and go. We stop and go. We don't really spend a lot of time anywhere, which has its downsides. I mean, sometimes you think, oh, if only I stayed, I could see a lot more of whatever it is, but we're we stop in, we see what we see, and we move on down the road. So we never saw the cave, which apparently is very popular, but we really enjoyed going up to the hiking trails, and it was just beautiful and quiet and peaceful out there. So,
And I bet really nice on a break from a long drive.
right, exactly.
Awesome.
Exactly.
So you end up doing most of your trips by yourself with the kids and the dog.
Right.
And your husband, you said he has less available time. Plus, he doesn't really care to do all the driving and sightseeing that you do. So how, obviously a lot of times opposites attract, and that includes being opposites in our feelings of travel, especially when you're stuck in a car with 3 kids and a dog.
Right.
So many spouses, I think, feel this way. They feel stuck because they want to travel. They want to get out and explore. but their other half doesn't really want to do very much. They might want to go one or two places, but they don't want to do all the sites like you like to do.
Right.
How have you guys navigated that and come to a compromise?
Yeah, I mean, we're very blessed in that I have the availability in the summer. I mean, originally I was just home with the kids, and now I'm teaching preschool. So I have summers off. So I'm available and he's not. And so, I'm kind of independent, and I'm like, I'm just going to do this. And he's like, that. Great, have fun. Go ahead. So people, like, we visit different people, different family members, like, oh, are we going to see him this year? And I was like, well, I don't know if he's going to make it to this section, so he has to spread himself around from year to year to make sure he's visiting the different people too. But yeah, the big joke is that I'm like, oh, no, he has to work because he has to pay for my vacation. So he can't come. Sorry.
No, he's
not available.
Keep doing the grind.
Exactly. You pay so I can enjoy this nice trip. But I mean, he does enjoy traveling. He does enjoy road trips to an extent, but not necessarily the entire trip every summer necessarily. So he'll pick and choose. He'll be like, ooh, what are we going to do this year? Oh, I want to see that. Okay, I'll fly into this section and I'll meet you there, and then I'll drive back with you, or, things like that. So he gets to come too.
And he gets to kind of
not
choose
the whole way.
Where he wants to spend his energy.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
That's actually a really good way of doing it. I think everybody is okay, like geared up to see a site with their kids and their spouse, but they may not want to do like that long trip, especially when you're going coast to coast, right? And those many days of long travel. So I love that you guys have found a compromise with that, because it is hard when you have a yearning to do something, but your spouse isn't necessarily thrilled about doing it themselves, whatever it is, whether it's travel or something else. And so I really appreciate the fact that you guys have come to this compromise that you both enjoy. You both feel like you're getting something positive out of it. And not missing out.
Right, exactly. And we do actually talk about, someday when the kids are all gone and we're retired, like maybe we'll get like a small RV, or we'll go ahead and just do it in the minivan again because it works. Yeah. But just kind of maybe travel, I mean, as I'm driving, I'm thinking about things. I'm like, okay, so if I had a year and that's 50 states, okay, we'll do 48 states. I'm like, okay, so, and I'm like calculating. And I decided last summer, I was like, oh no, a year's not long enough. I couldn't, because I would love to just spend more time in each place. Yeah. I was like, oh, a year's not enough. I don't know. All right, let's see. Maybe a month in each state. How long would that take?
Just go for it.
Right?
Everyone's doing it now. You can teach English online and go for it.
Right, exactly. So who knows what will happen in the future, but I do like to just, go out and see what's out there. There's a lot of stuff to see.
I love that you are independent enough to do that, and you like, you know what? I can do this. Like, I don't need somebody else. I love having him around, but I don't need somebody else in order to fulfill my goals, and spend time with your kids. That's awesome. Right. So there are, before I get to these questions that I ask everybody. Okay. First, is there anything else that you would like to tell us about, or any upcoming adventures that you have coming down the way?
Yeah, I don't know. See, we're very last minute planners too. People will ask, where are you coming on? Are you coming on this summer? I'm like, well, yeah, we're probably coming. Well, when are you going to be here? I don't know. I mean, it's only April. Why would I know where I'm going to be this summer? So some years we have to plan earlier for different reasons, but I am usually figuring it out in June where I'm going to go. And even as I plan, I don't always plan the whole trip necessarily. Like, I might plan it to a certain point. Like last year, I planned us through Texas, but I didn't plan us home from there. I was like, we'll worry about that later. We just need to know where we're going to be before that. And after that, we'll find our way home, and it'll be a few days later, and that's fine. Worry about that part later. So we are going this summer. We'll have to go to Utah to visit my son, and so we'll probably do our standard route for the most part. But I don't know exactly when or where. Just kind of I just like to go through life, just whatever. I'll get there when I get there.
Play it by ear. Never know what will
Right,
come up
exactly.
and just deal with it as it goes.
Exactly. Exactly.
I mean, you might run into the smallest ball of twine. I don't know.
Right? Exactly. Those are
Oh
harder to
no.
find. You can't see them, right?
Yeah, exactly. I have no idea what's out there. I'm looking forward to finding out myself. So I would love to just kind of get your insight on these last few questions. I feel like this is
Okay.
something everybody wants to kind of know about. So the first one is, what do you hope your kids will learn from traveling?
I would want them to learn that there's a lot of people in the world, and that in a lot of ways we're all the same. I mean, not only are we different, but in a lot of ways we're also the same. We all just, want to get through life um, in a good, positive way. We just want to go to work and do our jobs and have our happy families. And, maybe I live in a desert or maybe I live in a cornfield, but at the root of things, we're similar in a lot of ways. And then, but yeah, and just to know that there is a lot out there, and you don't have to settle for what's right here. I mean, if you're here and that's where you are, like we're here, and this isn't necessarily where we want to be forever, so we just make the best of it where you are. But also to know that there are other things out there. You can figure out how to get there.
There are options.
Right.
You just
Exactly.
got to take that step. Yep, I agree totally. So what does it mean to you to be able to travel with your family?
I don't think I would do it if I was by myself. Like, I know having my people around me makes me, I don't know, braver. I don't know, just more willing to be like, yes, come on, let's go, let's do it. It wouldn't be as much fun by myself. I wouldn't be as into like, oh, let's stop and see. I'd be like, no, let's just get there. Let's just get there. I just want to be with people again, which is funny because I'm kind of introverted, but my people, my family, my friends, I want to be with them, seeing all the things, not necessarily by myself.
It's more fun to see it with other people, for sure.
Right, exactly.
Because then you have that shared memory that you can talk about later.
Right. Yeah, remember when we went here? Remember when we saw that?
I'm sitting here thinking about my travels, and I've traveled by myself. I've traveled,
Right.
Different parts of Europe and whatnot by myself. But it's a lot of fun when you get to travel with somebody that you know and trust, because then you feel like you have these shared experiences that you don't have with anybody else. And it's
right. And it's also
bond.
like a little, right, a community almost that is a mobile community that's going with you.
Exactly.
Wherever you go.
So what is one piece of advice to families looking to travel more, whether it's, a weekend away or taking these intentional school breaks to do things, creating these traditions?
Right. Yeah. You just got to do it. I mean, if it seems easier to start small and see something nearby, like just do like a local trip or just in your state, depending on, what there is around and how big your state is, to just, try it out and see how it goes. Or if you're considering camping, maybe do like a camping trip to a local park and kind of test things out and see how it goes, what it's really like. There's actually a lot of local sites that we haven't seen because we're always going somewhere else. So
Yep.
when you're getting started, that's a good way to see the local things that you may not get around to once you start hitting the road all the time.
So maybe start with a staycation and then, get used to how that goes and then move on from there.
Right. Yeah. And keep, I don't know. For me personally, keep your expectations low, because then if it goes crazy, you weren't expecting greatness. And if it goes great, then you're like, wow, that was awesome.
And I think to expect that things will go wrong, like just
that's what I have
expect
found. It's usually, I mean, we've had our car break down. You never know what's going to happen out there.
Nope. I mean, even on we went on a day trip yesterday, and we didn't even leave our island. We stayed on our island. And there were still things that didn't quite go to plan. But you know what? You just
Right.
figure it out as you go and make the best of it, and it all
Right.
works out in the end. It doesn't matter. Those little things will just go to the side.
Right, exactly.
So if people want to learn more about you or connect with you, where can they go to find you?
Okay, so my home base is behindeveryday.com, and that's where you can find my social media links and my I write about some of the things we've seen. I just recently wrote about the Pencil Sharpener Museum in Ohio that we went to. Very interesting. And then just other things. I'm always interested in, oh, wow, I didn't know that story about how this thing was, and that's super interesting. And so I'll write up a thing about something I learned for that. And then Instagram is more of me and my life and my everyday life as, a teacher and a mom and a dog walker and a writer. And then I have a Facebook page where I like to share articles about, interesting, oh, hey, look at this thing I found. This is kind of cool. You should, do you ever want to see what it looked like behind the scenes of such and such, check out this article. So,
Awesome.
So that's how I kind of have myself divided.
So they should go to behindeveryday.com and find all the links for depending on how they want to interact with you.
Exactly. And while you're there, you can also sign up for my newsletter if you want me to remind you that you should come visit me. Sign up and I'll occasionally be like, hey, do you remember me?
Yeah, I'm really bad with the newsletter part. I do it, but it's not as I'm really into Facebook groups, so I'm creating a Facebook group. But the newsletter one is hard. So occasionally it's like, hey, hi.
Exactly.
So I feel you there. So before we go, we talked about this a little bit, but I want to give the listeners the backstory on if they're watching. Okay, so if you're listening to the podcast, Sheila is sitting on her couch, and behind her is this really cool vintage-looking map of the U.S., and then around it are all of these little, I guess, 4x6 photos of the place, things that they've done on their travels. So could you tell us a little bit about where you got the map and how you got this idea?
Okay, so I'd been wanting a map. I'd seen them in stores before, a big cool map of the United States. And so I wanted one, and I found one day at Cost Plus, and the price was good. And I was like, all right, I found it. I got my map. So I had the map, and then a friend of mine travels a lot, and she had pictures from her travels hung around her house in different places. And I thought, I could do that. I have pictures. I've been some places, and I could hang them up. And so I thought, what a fun thing to do would be to put them around the map. So they're not exactly geographical because we mostly go to the west. So we were kind of laughing. We're like, well, if we put them geographically, all the pictures would be on one side of the wall. But so we just kind of spun around and picked out some favorites from, that kind of represent the different areas that we've been, and a couple of favorite things. I like the buffalo picture is one of my favorites from when we were at Yellowstone. That's where we were, right? Yellowstone. And just fun stuff. We have four corners. We have a fun little picture of all of our feet standing around the four corners in the different states. And it's a nice conversation starter too. People come over like, oh, that, tell me about this picture or that picture. Because I love to talk about my trips.
I mean, they are great. And it's a mix of, the family and things that you've seen in nature and whatnot, and even little quotes. And for those listening, she even has these license plates. I guess they were your old license plates, maybe, from California?
A friend of ours in California makes things he made these out of license plates. Okay. So on another wall, we have the state of California made out of a California license plate. And then we also have this arrow that he made. So while we were there, I don't know if it was last summer or another trip, they made these for us. So
it fits perfectly with your theme of a road trip. So I really enjoy this visual. So if you're listening to the podcast and you want to see this, it will be in the show notes. I'll put the video there as well so you can take a look at it. But I really want to thank you, Sheila, for putting up with the technical difficulties that have been on my end and being patient as we figured those out. And thank you just so much for making the time to talk with me and share your family's story. I think a lot of people want to do more on their school holidays, but sometimes they feel like maybe, that's not enough and they have to go full time in order to really have that experience. But it's not. You just need to find what works for your family. And I love that you guys have found something that has become a 13-year tradition. So that's amazing.
It just started as maybe it'll work, and it turns out it did. So no, thank you for having me. I love, as you can tell, I love to talk about my trips. I could talk all day about my trips. So thank you.
Well, I look forward to when this comes out. I will share it with you, and I will get up those pictures as well. So I will let you know more as we get a little closer. All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you very much. This was super fun.
Bye, Sheila.
Bye.
I just want to remind you that you can find all of the show notes and the contest giveaway information at thisindulgentlife.com/10. That's the numeral 10. Again, that is thisindulgentlife.com/10. There you'll find everything that we talk about today, plus all of the giveaway information. Really what I need is for you to subscribe to this podcast and to leave an honest rating and review in iTunes. By doing that, you are helping iTunes realize that this is a show worth sharing. And we want to share this because we want to inspire so many people that traveling is possible with their family. So please leave an honest rating and review. It also helps me know where I need to improve. And then don't forget, we have that Facebook community that we just started. I'm really looking forward to getting to know you in there. We're going to have a lot of great opportunities to share our bucket lists, where we're going next, and then to really help each other out. I want to make this community a place where people can come, and if they want to learn about RVing, there are people that are there that can answer those questions. If they want to learn how to travel the world with just a backpack, there will be people there. So I'm really hoping that this becomes a community where we can all help each other, inspire each other, and push each other forward.